Yes, a communique has been issued by the Rashtrapati Bhavan at 8:55 this evening, and his appointment comes just weeks ahead of the interim budget. Arun Jaitley, who is in New York, will be designated minister without portfolio during this period. This was expected, some would say, but the Rashtrapati Bhavan communique says that this has been done on the advice of the Prime Minister, which is the procedure, and with immediate effect, Piyush Goyal will hold charge of the Corporate Affairs Ministry, also the Finance Ministry as well. Whether he will present the budget, that remains to be seen. But the press release from the Rashtrapati Bhavan goes on to say that this will be the portfolios for Piyush Goyal till further notice. We'll get you more reactions.
Parikshit, let me just let's just go into the statement that has been sent out bit by bit. As you pointed out, there have been specific portfolios that have been completely assigned to Piyush Goyal. So let's just read that statement out for our viewers that are just logging in. The President of India, as advised by the Prime Minister, hereby directed that during the period of the imposition of Shri Arun Jaitley, Minister, the portfolios of Minister of Finance, Minister of Corporate Affairs held by him will be temporarily assigned to Shri Piyush Goyal in addition to his existing portfolios. Now, the statement doesn't give the period, as Parikshit was pointing out. We don't know if Piyush Goyal is going to be the one who will be presenting the budget, but this is a statement that has just been made, and I would imagine that there would be some more clarity with respect to the timeline and how long this would take. Further, as advised by the Prime Minister, Shri Arun Jaitley be designated as minister without portfolio during the period of his indisposition or till such time he is able to resume his work as Minister of Finance and Minister of Corporate Affairs. SAPNA Das is in fact connected with us. SAPNA, we were expecting there to be some kind of indisposition by the finance minister, but this seems to be unexpected that at such a critical time when the vote on account is around the corner, the finance minister is now going to be, or rather the portfolio is now going to be transferred to Piyush Goyal. Do we know how long this is going to last? Do we know if Piyush Goyal is going to be presenting the vote on account now? Sapna? Okay, I think we're still connecting with Sapna Das, but Parikshit, again, we don't know the timeline over here, but what would there be political ramifications, if any, of Piyush Goyal stepping in if he were to step in for the vote on account presentation?
This has happened earlier, and Piyush Goyal has held the Finance Ministry portfolio earlier as well when Arun Jaitley was indisposed. So many would say that this is the obvious choice. It comes at a very critical time. It's just a week ahead of the vote on account presentation. And this is something that Arun Jaitley and his team had been preparing for. But probably there has been communication with the Prime Minister's office, and there is a feeling that he is not going to be returning. Arun Jaitley is not going to be returning over the next few days. And very soon we will probably get clarity. And I think this is probably what SAPNA is working on. I guess in the next hour or so, we would have some clarity on whether Piyush Goyal, who also holds a charge of the Railways Ministry, will present the vote on account as well. I think this paragraph is very crucial. As advised by the Prime Minister, Arun Jaitley will be designated as minister without portfolio during the period of his indisposition or till such time he's able to resume work as Minister of Finance and Minister of Corporate Affairs. So clearly a lot of thought has gone into this. Somewhere the Prime Minister's office has taken note that Mr. Jaitley will be away for a while.
Parikshit, what's going to be interesting to note is if at all there would be any kind of, I would imagine that if the finance minister is indisposed, there shouldn't be any political ramifications, because if you see the tenure that Piyush Goyal held his earlier portfolio at that point in time when he was the interim finance minister, I don't remember the exact period, but it was for at least over about 100 to 150 days, if I'm reading the articles correctly. And around that period, there seemed to be a seamless transfer. The government had ensured that there was no ramification of Arun Jaitley not being there in terms of his day-to-day duties. So in terms of a political ramification, Parikshit, do you expect there to be any kind of negativity as a result of that, any kind of concerns with respect to Mr. Jaitley not being there in the vote on account? I would imagine that there would be a seamless transfer this time around as well, if at all he were to present the vote on account.
You know, I really doubt that there would be any political ramifications because political parties, especially the Congress party and Rahul Gandhi, they've been wishing Arun Jaitley the best of health. I don't think they'll do any politics over this, but it comes at a very crucial time. Remember, the BJP suffered a defeat in 3 state elections, in this 5 state assembly elections. So a lot is expected from this vote on account. We're also hearing that there could be announcements on a farmers package, that there could be some announcement on MSMEs. Corporates have been asking for a GST rate cut as well. A lot of eyes, a lot of people are looking at this vote on account very, very closely, even though many people say that vote on account is almost procedural. But a lot of expectations from this vote on account. And that's why presentation of this budget becomes all the more crucial. Therefore, it would be important to see whether Piyush Goyal is going to present it or not. Most of those policy decisions now, all of that is a political call, be it the farmers package, be it the MSMEs. We've been speaking to our sources in the BJP and the government. Yeah. They said that they've really met 95% of their manifesto promises which were made in 2014 ahead of the Lok Sabha elections.
Bring in
Whatever's left is now a political call. Yeah.
Just hold that thought, Parikshit. Let's bring in DK MITTAL, the former banking secretary, who is joining in. Mr. MITTAL, you've been tracking this space very closely. How seamless would the transfer of power be? And what do you reckon, how critical would it be if Piyush Goyal were to be presenting the vote on account?
See, one, Mr. Goyal has been finance minister for quite some time, officiating finance minister, so he is aware of the issue there. Secondly, budget process in Government of India is very structured.
Yeah.
About 2 or 3 weeks before everything goes into printing, it has already gone into printing. At the last minute, only some fine-tuning is done in taxation proposal, that's all.
Correct.
And most of them have already been finalized, and they must have gone to printing. So I don't think at this stage changing of finance minister will change any issue. I mean, the complex of the budget or it will create any problem to the government to present it.
Mr. MITTAL, the first time when Piyush Goyal had taken over as interim finance minister, what would you make of his tenure at that point in time? And how would that thereby impact this period when he is going to be the interim finance minister?
Well, I'll only say that since he has worked as finance minister, so he's fully aware of the issues. So to that extent, he is not a new person to finance. And again, I repeat that the budget has already been finalized. Everything is done. At this stage, there's nothing much to be done except some fine-tuning of some last-minute taxation proposals, which keeps on happening. Otherwise, everything is done already. So I do not think, you require the new finance minister to really look at everything de novo.
Okay, Mr. Mittal, I'll request you to hold on. Our managing editor, SHEREEN is also joining us on the phone from Davos. And I guess this is a news that will create a lot of flutter there in Davos among all the big corporates. The presence of Piyush Goyal at a time when this is a very crucial budget, even though it's a vote on account, SHEREEN.
Absolutely. And, the sense was, and we got the finance minister to speak with us at the India Business Leader Awards just a short while ago, and he was working on the budget from New York. So now the question is one of handing over to Piyush Goyal, who has held this post in the past when Mr. Jaitley has gone previously on leave. So it's going to be interesting to see whether there will be any changes. Remember, when Piyush Goyal was finance minister and he chaired a GST council meeting, there was massive rate cuts that were announced, and those were not on the agenda. So could we see some changes, even as far as the budget is concerned, with Mr. Goyal coming in at this point in time? There is still a few days left for the vote on account to be presented. That's going to be something to watch out for.
SHEREEN, before just hold that thought, in terms of the budget-making process, Mr. Mittal, you were pointing out that there shouldn't be any changes. As SHEREEN was pointing out, if there could be any kind of changes that could be considered, do you believe that is likely in the next couple of days before the vote on account comes through?
I do not think really that is feasible. Of course, but that could be only a few changes, as I said in the very beginning. You can't have massive changes. And, we must realize that government is a continuing process. Changing of a minister really does not change the whole thinking of the government on the budget. Because budget is a process in which everybody in the top system is involved. And those changes, change of one person does not mean that the whole thinking can change overnight. But I agree with Mr. Goyal's coming, maybe he would have some more ideas, and if they could be brought into the budget at this stage, the printing matters permit them, perhaps he can introduce one or two, but only after having approval of everybody around. So I do not think any very revolutionary thing will come because Mr. Goyal can join at this point of time. But the fact remains that he is an old stalwart. He has been there in finance. He is aware of it. Yeah.
All right, all right. And he's been probably given the charge considering he's held it earlier during Mr. Jaitley's absence. And SHEREEN, just to come back to you, do you think whatever decisions that will be taken in the next few days, Mr. Mittal is saying most of that decision-making is already over. Whatever we hear now, like the announcements on farmers, like the announcements on MSMEs, all of that is now a political call, and probably those decisions have already been taken by the Prime Minister's office.
Yes, absolutely. I think, let's be very, very clear. The Prime Minister's office has been in dialogue with the Ministry of Finance, and the Prime Minister's office has had a say in the decisions taken by the Ministry of Finance. So it's not as if the Ministry of Finance has been acting independently. So whether it is the agri package, which Arun Jaitley told us when he spoke with us that these are not usual times, that something needs to be done for the farmers to alleviate their pain, and whether that could be announced in the vote on account. There was a cabinet meeting today. The expectation was that something would be announced, but it hasn't. So I would imagine now that the government will make those announcements perhaps in the vote on account, if not earlier. So all of the arithmetic and where the money is going to come from and how this is actually going to be packaged, I would imagine that a lot of that has been done. They might be crossing the T's and so on and so forth. But the Prime Minister's office has been involved with each of these decisions. So in that sense, there will be continuity, as Mr. Mittal is pointing out, and it's just a question of signing off on them. But it seems now that Arun Jaitley will not be presenting the vote on account, that it will be Piyush Goyal as Finance Minister who will present the vote on account.
All right, SHEREEN, we will let you go for now. We will be tracking the story very closely and getting you some more reactions and also trying to get you that interview